Alarms are ringing all over the Kremlin as Putin looks at a battlefield situation that is far different from the narrative he wants to create. Frustrated, Russia isn't winning. It's not even pushing. Instead, Ukraine is on the verge of pulling off a breakthrough so ingenious that even the US will be looking on with admiration. Ukraine is slicing and dicing its way across the front line with a combination of drones, technological brilliance, and a healthy heaping of Russia utterly ruining its own soldiers. Pause. The alarm is being sounded not by any of Putin's inner circle. They have their noses buried so deeply inside the Russian president's rear that he wouldn't be able to see them anyway. Instead, it's coming from one of the better sources of information about how Russia's military is feeling about what's happening in Ukraine. A military blogger, specifically, the Russian military blogger German Decisively, took to Telegram on March 13th to deliver his dire warning to the Kremlin and all of Russia. Many military personnel say the enemy is preparing a repeat of the fall of 2022, when we lost vast territories. But this time, the defeat could be even worse, Decisively warned in his post, as he exclaimed that the risk of a large breakthrough by Ukraine against Russia can't be ruled out. Counterattacks are being launched across the front lines, the Mill blogger says. However, the biggest threat that Ukraine is posing to Russia right now comes from the advantage that it has had almost since the war began. Ukraine is using technology better than Russia, and that has allowed for the creation of massive kill zones stocked full of a new generation of innovative drones that are tearing through Putin's forces. We'll dig a little deeper into the drones in a few minutes. On the kill zone front, Decisively says that Russia seems to be able to do nothing about a tactic that Ukraine has been using time and time again. The enemy is currently isolating the front lines and the entire combat zone. There is no logistics. Delivering supplies, evacuating the wounded, and carrying out rotations are mortally dangerous tasks. In many areas, after the isolation, drone fire strikes begin, followed by a counterattack. The enemy is recapturing its positions, the military blogger declares. What this means is that Ukraine's ingenious strategy is allowing it to cut Russia's increasingly isolated troops off from the support that they need to mount a defense, never mind sustaining the never-ending assaults that Putin demands. This is the kill zone strategy that Ukraine developed, coming to fruition in an insane way, and it's stopping Russia's forces in their tracks while setting up for the substantial gains Ukraine is already making and plans to make in the future. We have talked about Ukraine's kill zones many times before. These are zones that are filled with drones and other fortifications, often extending deep beyond the combat lines, that destroy Russian soldiers before they ever have a chance to reach their targets on the ground. The Telegraph reports that the kill zone strategy was born as much from necessity as it was military ingenuity, though it is now a combination of both. Ukraine knows that it can't match Russia man for man in terms of sheer numbers. Its solution has been to create what the Institute for the Study of War calls a wall of drones defense, which has been designed to blunt the Russian manpower advantage to the point where it can't be as telling as it's supposed to be. The kill zones are key to this choking of Putin's patsies, as Ukraine's vast drone production mechanisms have allowed it to expand these dangerous zones to up to 3 times their original size in some areas of the front. Wes O'Donnell has also highlighted this in a March 16th article, where he explained that it has only taken a matter of weeks for kill zones that once stretched an already impressive 31 miles behind the front lines to grow as deep as 93 miles. What this does is very simple. It stops Russia's forces from moving forward. That would be important in its own right. However, when taken in the context of the infiltration strategy that Russia started using in 2025, it becomes a true killer of the Russian approach. Last year, Russia started sneaking small units, often as small as 2 to 5 soldiers, into Ukrainian territory. The idea was that these infiltrators would bide in somewhere safe and then hold, awaiting backup that could come through the gap in the Ukrainian defenses that they exploited. It worked for a while, but now, as Ukraine expands the kill zones, that backup has many more miles to travel through horrifying kill zones just to get to the infiltrators. Much of the backup dies before it gets anywhere close, and the infiltrators are left cut off from support while they wait, not for the soldiers that were supposed to help them, but for Ukrainian search and destroy units that are constantly on the hunt. For Ukraine, this strategy is a key manpower preserver, as one unnamed Ukrainian soldier told the Telegraph. The drones are constantly watching, constantly striking. It slows them down, it breaks their rhythm, and it gives us the space to control the battlefield without sending men to die, the soldier explained. But for Russia, this is a strategy that exposes all of the struggles that Sajaliev explained when raising his alarm. Russia's logistics are collapsing behind the front lines. Territory that was once thought to be safe is being turned into Ukrainian kill zones, which sets the stage for Ukrainian advances like the ones that we're going to be covering a little later in the video. And it's not just FPV drones that Russia has to worry about. Ukraine has also developed a new range of middle strike drones, which are key to the expansion of the kill zones that Ukraine is creating and then pushing into. These new drones allow Ukraine to hit key Russian military nodes in the occupied territories, such as ammunition stashes, command and control centers, and Russian drone operator headquarters. The more of this makeshift infrastructure that Ukraine takes down, the weaker Russia's rear becomes, and the more susceptible Putin's troops on the front become to Ukraine's advance. This is how you lay the foundations of a breakthrough. Weaken Russia in layers, then take back massive swathes of territory. But executing this type of strategy is easier said than done. We've already offered one hint about how Ukraine is doing it with our mentions of the middle strike drones. But that is just one example of the drone innovation that is happening across the board, which allows Ukraine to isolate Russian soldiers and complete its pushes into the occupied territories. Sajaliev explains in his Telegram post, stating, "The situation on the front is dire. The enemy has once again gained superiority in the lower skies. Their drones have become more numerous, and their quality has changed again." The military blogger adds, "Many drones are using fiber optics, radio drones have changed frequencies, are using mother drones, and so on. Our electronic warfare isn't helping, and even our drone detectors aren't signaling. The enemy is flying in flocks of several hundred drones, in swarms, and is using AI. There is a lot to unpack here, specifically when it comes to Ukraine's increasing use of artificial intelligence. That alone has the potential to change everything. But before we dig into that, this is a quick reminder that you're watching the Military Show. If you haven't already, hit subscribe so you always see the latest videos posted to the channel. On the AI front, the Mill blogger talks about entire swarms that are being launched into the kill zones that are powered by artificial intelligence rather than controlled by human operators. If Ukraine has those swarms, it's keeping quiet about them, at least officially. Rumblings about Ukraine developing this type of technology date back to September 2025, when the Wall Street Journal reported that Ukraine was developing the capability. Fast forward to today, and it appears that we are starting to see these AI-powered death-dealing swarms become a real factor in the Ukraine war. The Atlantic Council offers some more insight with a discussion about how these drone swarms are different from anything that Russia has ever faced before. In the past, Russia's electronic warfare, or EW, technology could stop drone swarms in their tracks. All it would take is the severing of the connection that those swarms have with the cloud infrastructure that was the key to keeping them on target, and the swarm loses much of its power. Drones fly off course and crash into the ground, making it much easier for Russia to deal with the small number of unmanned aerial vehicles that manage to make their way through the EW assault. All of this changes now that AI is in play. The connections to the cloud can still be severed, but it makes no difference. Autonomous drones don't need the connection. They've been programmed with algorithmic targeting, which allows them to adapt their courses based on what they see on the ground. Machine learning also enables these drones to learn from and adapt to Russia's countermeasures, further increasing the chances of a successful strike. This is what Sajaliev means when he speaks about AI drone swarms that seem impervious to EW. The drones aren't impervious. They're just smarter than ever before, and they can still head home, even after having their cloud connections severed. Ukraine is starting to lean heavily into this technological advantage over Russia, and it could well be the key to the breakthrough that Russia's doom and gloom military bloggers believe is coming. For one, Ukraine is taking a very active role in training the AI that its drone swarms are using. On March 12th, the New York Times reported that Ukraine has started to provide drone videos, along with other types of battlefield data, to the many companies, Ukrainian and otherwise, that are developing the drones that it is using against Russia. Ukraine's defense minister, Mikhailo Fedorov, explained why in a March 12th Telegram post. where he covered just how critical it is for Ukraine to stay ahead of Russia on the technological front. In modern warfare, we must defeat Russia in every technological cycle. Artificial intelligence is one of the key areas of this competition, Fedorov declared, adding, "The future of warfare lies in autonomous systems. Our task is to increase the level of autonomy of drones and other combat systems so that they can detect targets faster, analyze the situation, and help make decisions on the battlefield." Ukraine's defense minister went on to explain that the country has developed a special AI platform that allows for the safe training of models without providing those models with direct access to sensitive databases. These models will be given access to a constantly updating stream of battlefield data, which they will use to take the AI-powered drones Ukraine is using today and turn them into the horrors that Russia will have to face tomorrow. This is huge for Ukraine. It has hundreds of thousands, if not millions, of video clips recorded by drones that have conducted both failed and successful drone strikes. Every single one of those clips provides some insight into Russia's defenses and Ukraine's approaches, allowing Ukraine to refine a drone strategy that is already so effective that it played a huge role in costing Putin 1,710 of his soldiers in the 24 hours leading up to March 18th alone, per Ukrinform. By the way, Ukraine isn't alone in this endeavor. It's bringing some of its most important partners along for the ride. On March 17th, United 24 Media reported that Ukraine has partnered with the UK to develop what the outlet calls a new AI war brain that will allow it to stay ahead of Russia on the technological front. Dubbed A1, this war brain will feed into Fedorov's goals as stated in the Telegram post we just mentioned, as the specialist working at the new center will feed combat data into machine learning models to improve drone autonomy and effectiveness. More will be coming, it seems, as Ukraine also intends to create a network of AI hubs that it will use to inform its artillery and long-range strike tactics, along with its frontline drones. Combine all of this with a domestic drone industry that has the capacity to pump out around 8 million drones annually, assuming that it has the funding, and it becomes clear why Ukraine's kill zone strategy is working so well. It's able to expand the zones because of middle strike drones, and it is building AI into drones to overcome Russia's EW defenses. How can infiltrators possibly stand a chance against all of this? Never mind the Russian military nodes in the rear. The former gets cut off because the latter is being hit over and over again. This is what a focus on innovation can deliver, and we're starting to see the results. You may wonder why Russia is so scared of a Ukrainian breakthrough, even after hearing everything we've discussed about drones, kill zones, and the emergence of AI as a key factor in Ukraine's strategy. The reason the fear exists is that the Ukrainian breakthrough isn't just a theory. It's not just a possibility that might come to pass if Russia doesn't find a way to counter everything that Ukraine is doing. The breakthrough is already happening. Since the beginning of February, and uncoincidentally around the same time that Russia's access to its illicit Starlink terminals was cut off, Ukraine has been launching a massive counteroffensive in the south of its territory. As of March 8th, Ukraine's president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was claiming that Ukraine has liberated 435 square kilometers, or almost 168 square miles, of territory and counting. A couple of days before, the Kyiv Post reported that Ukraine's recent gains are extensive enough that it has achieved a net territory gain for the first time since the 2023 counteroffensive. In other words, Ukraine has managed to liberate more territory than Russia has been able to occupy over the past month or so. Ostensibly, these breakthroughs are happening because Ukraine needs to disrupt Russia's plans for a spring and summer offensive that seems set to target Donetsk and Zaporizhia. Russia is already in bad shape for that offensive, and it has itself to blame. Why? Stick with us to the end of the video, and you'll find out. But right now, what we may be seeing is Ukraine realizing that a push that started with the goal of preventing Russia from executing its full spring and summer plan actually offers much more protection. Russia's poor defenses have fallen quickly under Ukraine's counteroffensive, which goes to show how badly Putin's infiltration strategy has worked and how well Ukraine has used its drones to cut those infiltrators off. Ukraine continues to expand its kill zones, with the general gist of the counteroffensive amounting to drones conducting strikes in the Russian rear as Ukraine's ground forces advance. Right now, Ukraine will be looking at what it has achieved so far and it will ask itself a question. We've retaken a lot, but could we take more? Having demonstrated that a Russian victory is far from inevitable, Ukraine may now be looking at the possibility of an even deeper breakthrough. That's what has caused so much alarm in the Kremlin, and especially among Russia's mill-blogger community. Ukraine's push shattered a carefully constructed narrative, and its technological edge has made it possible for the counteroffensive to be a precursor to Ukraine executing what is starting to look like a war-ending strategy on an even wider scale. And with that, we come back to something we mentioned a moment ago. As brilliant as Ukraine has been in creating the battlefield situation that now exists, Russia has lent more than a helping hand. Putin's brutal approach to his own military is systematically weakening Russia to the point where Ukraine's counteroffensives and potential breakthrough look ever more possible. We know this due to a March report published by the Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights, or OHCHR. We'll let the report do the talking here. The testimonies analyzed show that military commanders arbitrarily imposed, practiced, or tolerated extreme violence and coercion against soldiers as punishment for refusing to participate in military operations that meant almost certain death, and for withdrawing from the front line, even when this was justified by injury, lack of ammunition, or food and water. The OHCHR says of interviews conducted with 85 Russian soldiers, 61 of whom say that they have witnessed these kinds of punitive actions in their time serving in the Russian military. Anybody who dares speak up or, Putin forbid, decides that maybe it's a bad idea to charge into a miles-long kill zone with no armor may be shot on the spot by their commanders. If they survive actual execution, they may face a mock execution or the infliction of injuries that range from severe beatings to shooting in and around the legs. This inhuman treatment becomes horrifically medieval when you learn that one of the soldiers who spoke to the OHCHR reported that their commander had left the battered corpse of a beaten soldier at the entrance to their building as a violently visual reminder of what happens if a Russian soldier says no to Putin's insane orders. Ukraine's military intelligence reports something similar, United 24 Media said in a March 17th article. Only this time, the brutal approach that Russia's commanders take to their live soldiers was transplanted onto the war dead. According to the main intelligence directorate of Ukraine, Russian commanders have taken to ordering their subordinates to chop the heads off their fallen comrades as some sort of twisted means of identifying the lost soldiers. Identification documents are also gathered, which only begs the question of why the commanders would resort to such a dreadful display of contempt towards their own dead. It seems that the only explanation right now is that it's easier to carry a head than it is to carry an entire body. That, more than anything else, tells you what it's like to serve in Putin's version of an army. Soldiers who refuse to become cannon fodder are beaten or killed. Those who do push forward and die, as is almost inevitable in Ukraine's kill zones, have their bodies desecrated by their own comrades. This is savagery on a suicidal scale. And it's all happening as Ukraine's technological advances, superb strategy, and unstoppable counteroffensive are putting it on the verge of a breakthrough. Alarm bells should be ringing in the Kremlin. All right. Russia is killing its own just as effectively as Ukraine is causing casualties, and that brutal approach to warfare is coming back to bite Putin as he watches the Russian front lines crumble. As all of this has been happening, Ukraine has also focused on ripping Russia's belly open with devastating strikes throughout February that are crippling the Russian war machine. 105,000 targets have been struck. Air defenses, drone pilots, missile production, and logistics have been destroyed. And you can find out all about it if you check out our video, which covers how Ukraine is transforming the way that modern wars are fought. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you subscribe to the Military Show to see more analysis of the ingenious military tactics that Ukraine deploys against Russia.